So, hi everyone. Thank you for taking the time to come out this evening and learn about wildlife and waste with us. To start, I want to let everybody know that this session will be recorded for people who are not able to attend tonight. Please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. We will not be recording any of the audience members' faces. If you prefer to have your questions asked by a city staff member, please write it down and then we can read it out on the mic for you. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are honored to live, work, and play on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Stolo ancestors and their families who have lived here for thousands of years. This land has been part of the fabric of Indigenous communities long before the City of Chilliwack was built, and it will be long into the future. It is with gratitude that we learn and work here, where the past, present, and future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people can come together. So at this Wildlife and Waste information session, we have the City of Chilliwack, WildsafeBC, and the BC Conservation Officer Service, here to share ways to reduce wildlife conflicts by responsibly managing waste and other attractants in wildlife areas. From the city, we have myself, Bryn Dolman, Environmental Services Specialist, Tara Friesen, Manager of Environmental Services, and Kathy Hsu, Environmental Coordinator. We also have Lori Roberts here from WildSafeBC. And from the Conservation Office Service, we have Stephanie Peeling and Isaiah Peters. So thank you for being here tonight. In April 2024, the following requirements were added to the city's solid waste management bylaw. So first, all properties within wildlife areas are required to set out their materials no earlier than 5 a.m. on the day of collection. This includes all residential, commercial, institutional, and industrial properties. Prior to this change in April 2024, it was only properties on the city's curbside collection program that had to abide by these rules. Secondly, residents who live in the designated wildlife areas must store their waste and waste containers in an enclosure and/or a way that's inaccessible to bears and wildlife. Property owners that are non-compliant with these terms could be subject to a fine of $200 per occurrence. An updated map was also added to the bylaw that designated all hillside neighborhoods as wildlife issue areas. These areas included, but are not limited to, Promontory, Ryder Lake, Eastern Hillsides, Chilliwack Mountain, Majuba Hill, Riverstone Heights, Little Mountain, and the base of Little Mountain at Quarry Road. If new wildlife areas are added to our bylaw, notifications for these changes will be sent out through an alert on our curbside collection app, as well as on our social media, and we will mail out a letter to the residents. There's been a lot of public interest in this topic. These requirements were established to address concerns from residents and the increase in human-bear conflicts that we're seeing in Chilliwack. The goal for these requirements is to help reduce the risk of wildlife encounters for residents and children who play outdoors, as well as protecting the wildlife that reside in our natural areas. So this is our wildlife area issues map. The most recent addition that came to the map in 2024 was the base of Little Mountain at Quarry Road. And this map can actually be viewed on our city online mapping system under the environment dropdown. I'll now pass it over to Kathy to speak about the city's response to wildlife issues.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more about auditing and enforcement. So our environmental service team will perform evening audits to ensure residents do not put their containers out the night before collection. So if any containers are out, we'll be using a violation tag that you'll see here on the right. So there's a section for curbside materials set out for night before collection, and there's also a spot for curbside containers not stored in an enclosed structure or a garage. So we will also attend to complaints from residents who do not have their containers in an enclosure. The same tag will be used. Residents can contact us through email or by phone to make any complaints for improper storage. Neighbors with known wildlife issue with priorities for audits, and residents who do not follow the bylaw will receive one warning letter, and if residents do not comply, a fine of $200 can be issued. So here's a little recap of what happened in 2024. The photo you see on the slide is a real picture of after a bear has gone through the garbage at the side of the house. So the city staff perform evening audits once a week from May to end of September with a total of 13 audits, mostly in Promontory since it's our biggest problem area with a lot of residents who are non-compliant. A total of 302 homes were tagged for materials set outside the night before collection, and hundreds of homes were tagged for improper storage by the city and WildsafeBC staff. In total, there was 8 fines that was issued in 2024, with 4 for materials set out too early and 4 for improper storage. So with all the efforts that we have made, that we had put in place, there were no bear euthanized in 2024. So here's just a little chart that we have. So you can tell at the bottom is all the areas of hillside. You can see that Little Mountain has the highest percentage of containers set out the night before collection. Now with Little Mountain, there's about 350 homes, but 21% of those homes had their materials out. Followed by Promontory, there's about 3,000 homes and 6.5% has set out the containers the night of collection, and then followed by Eastern Hillside. So the city also have a lot of messaging and education that we do. So the city has been very proactive in bringing awareness to the residents. We have installed signage in residential streets and parks on hillside areas in early 2025. So the sign that you see on the left side is for parks and trails, and the other is for residential areas. We also have 2 digital messaging boards on display for 2 weeks at a time on hillside areas from the beginning of the season. It is currently displayed at Eastern Hillside right now, and the messaging on the board would read, "Bear in area, store waste securely, no waste at curb, 10 p.m. to 5 p.m. The ES team also used Curbside app to send out service alert to all hillside residents as a reminder that their home is within the wildlife issue areas, and to store their waste container in an enclosure and not to place their materials the night before collection. And of course, we have an annual wildlife and waste information sessions just like this one that we will continue to do. So we have been always partnered with WildsafeBC and also COS. So this year, we have created a work plan with WildsafeBC to define our goals. So for instance, we want to do a lot of door-to-door education. We want to reach out to 800 homes and be able to tag 800 homes for improper storage and have information booths set up for 3 trailheads, visit elementary schools, and other workshops. Along with working with COS, they will be sending us wildlife reports every month that we can attend to. So it could be just neighborhoods, or streets that require more education for residents. Since there has been an overwhelming reports with bear assets and curbside materials, the COS may not have the time to attend to those calls. So therefore, they will send us those addresses so we can use our city staff and WildsafeBC to take care of those inquiries. And lastly, I did want to acknowledge Lori Roberts here from WildsafeBC for her dedication and hard work last year for her community. She's very passionate about protecting wildlife and also educating the residents. We're very happy to have her continue working with us, and we hope that we continue the same this year. So thank you. So wildlife resistant carts. So as some of you might be aware that we'll be starting a new curbside contract as of May of 2026. The collection method will be all automated, and all resident will receive a cart style container like the green cart, and resident in the hillside area will receive a wildlife resistant cart. The cart itself, we propose, will have a double wall lid, durable plastic body, and a locking mechanism. And here's just one picture of a sample cart that we have reviewed. So report sightings of wildlife. So if you witness wildlife accessing curbside materials, please contact the city and the WildsafeBC first to get a quicker response. You can reach us at the email above and also the phone number, and we will attend to the complaint within a few days or sooner. But if you witness wildlife acting aggressively towards humans or pets, please call the BC Conservation Office rep line as soon as you can. So some of the future plans, we would continue to collectively help change residents' behavior and mindset. We would like to understand that human behavior do affect wildlife, so bears are not going to leave if they continue to feed on curbside waste. Wildlife resistant cards will be issued as of May of 2026 for wildlife issue areas, and we'll continue to work closely with WildsafeBC and the COS. And of course, we will still be providing educational campaigns through our app, social media, and our website. So this is the end of the city's presentation. I'm going to pass it on to Lori for her presentation, WildSafeBC.
I'm very passionate about this role and excited to be doing this again this year. Tonight, we're going to talk about what is WildSafeBC, BC Wildlife Overview and Reports, grizzly bears, black bears, bear safety, reducing human-wildlife conflicts, and managing wildlife attractants. Every year, the Conservation Officer Service receives approximately 25,000 calls from the public regarding wildlife in British Columbia. Many of these calls are regarding large carnivores in urban areas or wildlife in conflict. Many of these conflicts can be avoided by learning more about their root causes and taking certain actions to prevent negative encounters. WildSafeB is the provincial leader in preventing conflict with wildlife through collaboration, education, and community solutions. WildSafeBC is a program managed by the British Columbia Conservation Foundation, a nonprofit committed to their conservation of fish and wildlife resources along with their habitat. Our program began as Bear Aware in 1998 and in 2013 changed to WildSafeBC to include other species that humans come into conflict with. We have program coordinators throughout BC that deliver the program to over 100 communities. Our activities include WildSafe Ranger presentations for school-age children, booth presentations at trailheads, parks, and campsites on wildlife awareness and safety, bear spray workshops, booths at community events, garbage tagging, attractant management education, and door-to-door canvassing. In our 2024 season, I visited over 800 hillside homes in Chilliwack, attended parks, trailheads, schools, and markets to educate our communities about wildlife and attractant management. BC is wildlife country. We have an estimated 3,500 cougars, 8,000 wolves, 15,000 grizzly bears, and 140 to 250,000 black bears. It is recognized that these animals play a crucial ecological role on the landscape and have spiritual value for many Indigenous people. However, they can present a real and perceived threat to people, pets, livestock, and property. Reducing factors that lead to conflict and adopting proven practices when sharing the landscape with these animals is a key strategy for safer coexistence for all. We have 3 types of wildcats in BC: cougars, lynx, and bobcats. Cougars can sprint over 70 kilometers per hour. They are carnivores with a strict meat diet. They like to eat deer, but could also eat livestock and small pets. Coyotes weigh 9 to 23 kilograms and have a slender muzzle. Wolves, we have 3 types in BC. We have the gray, the western, and the northern gray. They weigh 30 to 50 kilograms and have a broad muzzle. Both are carnivores and will also eat pets, bird seed, and livestock. When we leave attractants out in unsecured areas, we attract all sorts of wildlife into our communities, including rodents. To avoid conflicts with deer, it is important to not feed them. Deer will also take advantage of birdseed if it is available. In late May and June, give does and fawns plenty of space. Do not let dogs approach them. In the fall, during mating season, male deer may become more aggressive. Check your yard before you let your dog out to make sure there are no deer or wildlife present. all about BC bears. So tonight I'll be telling you a lot of information, and you may hear me say some things more than once. BC bears. We have black and grizzly bears, and they come in all different colors. We have black bears all through Chilliwack, Fairfield Island, Yarrow, Eastern Hillside, Promontory, Little Mountain. They do show up in unexpected areas as well. Like last year, I heard that there was one downtown. So they can go anywhere. Let's take a look at the differences between our two bears, which are American black bear and a grizzly bear. When trying to identify a species of bear, look at the combination of characteristics and do not rely solely on color or size. Let's review some of the key differences to look for. Black bears lack a distinctive shoulder hump, while this is a common feature for grizzly bears. Black bears have short claws, ideal for climbing trees, while grizzlies have long claws suitable for digging. Black bears tend to have taller, more prominent ears compared to grizzly bears that have smaller, more rounded ears. A black bear's profile will be flatter, while a grizzly bear will be more dish-shaped. Many black bears are brown, leading to misidentification. When looking at tracks, a black bear is more rounded, and the last digit falls below a line drawn across the pad, as shown in the picture. With grizzly bears, all the digit pads fall above the line and the claw marks are farther away. Just a recap on our bears. So the claws, you can see, are longer for a grizzly. The shoulder hump is present. The ears are more rounded and the profile is different. And obviously a grizzly bear is way bigger. And again, our BC bears come in all different colors. So if you see a brown bear, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a grizzly bear or a black bear. It could be any of the bears. Black bears can be found throughout BC. They are well adapted to living in most ecosystems, but prefer forested areas and can tolerate living close to people. They do so by becoming more active at night, but lately they are coming into our communities at all hours of the day to access garbage and waste materials. Some black bear fun facts. Spirit bears are a subspecies of a black bear. Bears can live over 30 years, but 15 to 20 is more common. Adult males measure 60 to 90 centimeters at shoulder and weigh 80 to 300 kilograms. Females are smaller, weighing at 40 to 140 kilograms. Bears lose approximately 30% of their body weight over winter, and their colors, as I said before, can be white, bluish, gray, black, different shades of brown, and a cinnamon reddish color. Black bears are excellent climbers, and they have been known to easily scale fences and buildings. You may not see a bear on the ground. Sometimes they are in the trees. The sow, the mama bear, may send her cubs up a tree for safety if humans are nearby. A male bear is called a boar. A female is called a sow, and their offspring are known as cubs. Bears tend to be solitary unless it is a sow raising her cubs. She will mate in June, sometimes with multiple partners, and can have up to 5 offspring, but 2 is more typical. Bears are unusual in that they have an adaptation called a delayed embryo implantation. If they have not put on enough weight to survive the winter and raise their young, the embryo will not implant and develop. Bears enter dens on average from November to April. During this time, they do not eat, drink, urinate, or defecate. They become lethargic and their heart rate drops to about 10 beats per minute. Their body temperature lowers by about 3 degrees. Winter hibernation is an adaptation to surviving winters with little food. If temperatures are mild or if they find food sources, example garbage, they may not enter their dens until very late, if at all. This is more common in young bears that have not had good success in fattening up for the winter. Another reason why we should have garbage stored properly year-round. In colder climates, bears will enter their dens sooner and emerge later. Bears typically emerge from their dens around April, first the males, then later the females, and the females with cubs. And some myths. Some believe that bears do not have good vision, but that is a myth. Their vision is as good or better than ours. They are excellent swimmers, they have very strong scent map, and can see, hear, as well, if not better than humans. They are also excellent runners, and they can cover ground fast, going either uphill or down, about 13 meters in 1 second. And I do have a rope up here, so you guys can kind of see about what 13 meters looks like and how fast 1 second is. That's how fast they run. So never run from a bear. Some signs of bear activity are fresh paw tracks along the river where salmon are spawning. Fresh black bear scat is shiny and it's showing seeds with berries that he's been eating. Fresh marks on alder cheese showing a reddish hue with the claw marks, and fresh dugout tree stump from bear seeking out insect larvae or overturned logs. And bears stand to smell the air. They have one of the strongest noses in the entire animal kingdom. Their sense of smell is how bears find food, following scent trails for miles. However, this amazing nose can sometimes lead them to urban areas and get them into trouble. And a little bit of bear safety. Avoid surprise encounters with bears by being aware of your surroundings and not using headphones. Watch for signs of bear activity and talk or sing to make bears aware of your presence. Bear bells aren't recognized as human sound and they cannot be heard around creeks or wind. Avoid hiking alone and use caution when near ripe berries, spawning salmon, or other known food sources. If you find a carcass, leave the area immediately. Do not let your dogs off leash in bear areas. A bear will often follow a dog back to its owner. Your pet may be injured or killed by the wildlife defending itself. Carry bear spray and learn how to use it. Take training from WildsafeBC. If you have a bear, very quietly say, hey bear, and back away slowly. Move out of its path. Bears need 4 basic things: space, shelter, food, and water. Give the bear space to pass you. Bears may make a huffing sound, salivate, pawing the ground, jaw snapping, or bluff charging. These are the ways of them telling you are too close and to give them space. Natural black bear diet. While classified in the order Carnivora, bears are omnivores, meaning they eat a variety of foods from plants to fish to insects, meat, and carcass. Around 80% of black bear's diet is plant-based and 20% is meat-based. In the spring, they go after protein-rich young plants, followed by berries. Berries often ripen in succession from one plant species to another. They also thrive on protein-rich insect larvae, and a sign of bear activity are overturned stumps hosting colonies of insects. With regards to salmon, they prefer the brains and the eggs, and will focus on these parts when there are large returns. Salmon can carry a parasitic worm in their flesh that they try to avoid. However, if they are hungry enough, they will consume most of the fish. Late summer and fall is a period for bears called hyperphagia, extreme eating. They consume over 20,000 calories per day to put on enough fat to survive winter hibernation or denning. These are the reported sightings with COS of black bears in the Fraser Valley over the last 5 years. In 2020, they had 162 calls. In 2021, 553 calls. In 2022, 793 calls. In 2023, 1,209 calls. And last year, 807 calls. This is the COS report for Fraser Valley for other wildlife. This visual highlight is the large amount of bear sightings and the need for WildSafeBC in our community. And they had 40 coyote calls, 56 cougar calls, and 807 black bear calls. Let's work together to keep wildlife wild and our community safe. Secure your garbage cans so they can't be accessed by bears. And do not feed any wildlife ever. Garbage needs to be in a secure area. When we keep our attractants locked away, we are keeping our wildlife wild and our community safe. Which is why it's important to understand what are the attractants and ways to avoid food-conditioned bears. Fruit and trees are an abundant source of calorie-rich and easily accessible food. Garbage, recycling, and compostable waste, for example, household garbage, diapers, food compost, and lawn clippings, as well as pet food and grease and fat from your barbecue are also highly attractive food sources for bears. In fact, anything with a scent, even a suntan lotion bottle or empty coolers, will attract a bear to your home. Problem areas include bird feeders, including hummingbird feeders, which are a source of high calories and fat for bears. They are attracting rodents and deer, which in turn attract large predators. Birds can get their natural food source from nature. Consider putting a birdhouse up and flowers around so you can see them. You will enjoy them and keep them wild. This will keep bears, deer, cougar, coyotes, and rodents away. Attractant management. Attractants should never be stored outside your home or at your front door. It is extremely dangerous to keep garbage at your front door. What if you opened your door and the bear was surprised and scared? It may run towards you as it sees you taking away its food source you have provided, garbage, or unsecured areas. Consider your garage or bear-resistant locked shed. Do not put any attractants out on the curbside before collection morning. To minimize smells and bugs, consider freezing all your compostable waste. When growing food in wildlife country or having livestock, chickens, protect your investment and keep your community safe by using fencing. Physical fencing can work well for smaller animals, but for bears, the best solution is electric fencing. Fruit trees should be pruned and kept manageable in size. Be sure to pick the fruit before the bears get to it or install a temporary electric fence. If you are no longer using the fruit and no longer can manage the tree, consider replacing it with a non-fruit or nut-bearing variety. And this again is just some fencing provided around chickens. Beehives are not the only attractive for honey, but the insect larvae is highly prized by bears. They also attract skunks and raccoons. Again, a combination of physical and electric fencing is effective if installed properly and maintained. Break the cycle and address the root causes. Relocation is not the answer, and this is why. Relocating a bear is extremely stressful as it involves being trapped, tranquilized, and moved. If they are moved within their home range, there is a high probability they will return to their known food source and will be in conflict again. If they are moved out of their home range, they may encounter difficulty adapting, finding food, surviving potentially dangerous encounters with other pre-existing bears in that location. Relocating typically means repeating the cycle if the problem of abundant, easily accessible food sources is not addressed. Once a bear is food conditioned, it can become a danger to humans and ultimately will lead to it being destroyed. If a relocation is successful, a new bear will move into the area again if the root cause isn't addressed in the first place. If you see wildlife accessing curbside materials, please report to the City of Chilliwack or WildsafeBC. If you see wildlife acting aggressively toward humans, please call the BC Conservation Office service wrap line below. And WildsaveBC Fraser Valley has a Facebook page that is updated April to November 30th. Our website is www.wildsafebc.com. And I just wanted to thank the City of Chilliwack for hosting this event, the BC Conservation Officers, and to the community for coming out tonight.